Hi everyone, this is Ibrahim Shishabor, and this video is about a topic that one of the people who viewed in one of my videos had a comment and was kind enough to comment on it and said that what my belief on the idea of the death sentence for blasphemy is. And so I answered his comment and replied, and I said that I'll make a video about my notion. I told him that I don't accept the notion of death sentence for just blasphemy, where in the sense that he means that I don't accept that. But I told him that I do believe in it, the death sentence for blasphemy, in a special kind of condition, which I'll try to explain. And another notion is, this video is my reply to his question, but it's a very important and delicate issue. It is very controversial, and it has raised many different arguments and debates. And I think that I was going to answer this. I wasn't going to answer this. It was in my mind to give my opinion about it, because I have a very different sort of opinion about it than what is the mainstream belief of the Muslims, or people who are for or against the notion that there should be a death sentence for people who do these things. But I wasn't going to do it yet, because it was a case that there was a lot of foundations that needed to be put, so that for my argument to be based upon. But it doesn't matter, since our friend was kind enough to watch the video and comment and had this question about this. I thought that it was my responsibility, since he'd asked me to answer. Of course, I think it's a he, I don't know, I suppose it's a he, to answer this question, at least give my opinion on it. So there are two main issues when it comes to blasphemy. There are two issues which are very controversial in the death sentence for those who are against the belief and the religion. Like the death sentence that Khomeini passed on the Indian writer Salman Rushdie, and his book, where it is said that he said things against the Prophet which were not true. There's one sense of a death sentence that the mainstream people believe that if you say bad things about the Prophet or the Shia Imams and their spiritual leaders and other religious idols and other religious leaders, you're committing blasphemy, and your sentence is the death sentence. There is another very controversial issue that they are, and I think the basis, the foundation of the answers that my answer is based upon is the same as the person who is sentenced to death for committing blasphemy, and that is a person that leaves Islam. Islam has a rule that if you leave Islam, you're sentenced to death if you ever leave Islam, and that is also raises many questions. And even in my country, Iran, and within the Muslim community, these two things and these two Islamic laws are very controversial. There are many people who don't accept the fact of what this says, and they say that it doesn't make sense. What about freedom of speech, and so on and things like this, and freedom to have your own beliefs, and which is not in accordance. It kind of doesn't make sense when you put all two and two together within the Islamic ideology and doctrine. So, sorry, because I have a cold, so I might sneeze or cough or something in the middle of the video, so please forgive me for that. And so, when we try to debate these things, sometimes we get mixed up, because this notion that whether blasphemy, I don't know what blasphemy is. This notion that if is blasphemy or saying bad things, whether you curse, you curse like a religious figure, an icon, or you say things that the Muslim, or you say things that about how they are evil or how they've done these wrong things. I mean, they're pedophiles or whatever like this. They're warlords or whatever things like this. When we say, is the death sentence right for these acts? Is it just? Is it in the course of justice to say that if somebody says a bad thing to this prophet or that prophet or whatever like this, then they should be sentenced to death? And another thing, the other notion that I said that I was going to talk about is I don't know what the English the English term is when somebody leaves or the Christian, if there is a Christian or Judaism term or label that they give to somebody leaves that religion, or if Islam is the only religion that puts a label or puts a name on someone who leaves Islam, it's called murtad. The person is called a murtad, and the act is called irtidad in the Islamic doctrine. And this also calls for the death sentence to be put on this person. And these two are the notions that I'm going to. Let's first give my opinion on them in a clear-cut sentence. I don't accept them in the term that might come to your mind when you talk about these things, when you hear about these things. I don't accept them at all. I don't accept them at all, and I will tell you why not. But I do accept them in a sense. In one form and in one scenario, I do accept them. And I think that not only do I accept them, that they must be. Just like in my other videos when I say that, like the video that this friend of mine, JJ, replied, made a comment on, which was about the fact that why did the Prophet of Islam start wars? If they started war, he should be glorified, he should be called a hero, not a tyrant, not a warlord. And so he must have done that. It's not only accepted, but it must be done. Anything other than this is unaccepted. So, just to get to the point, when we talk about these things, first of all, I'm going to get to it's maybe you didn't know this, JJ, but and maybe some of the viewers don't know. But the second fact that I'm going to talk about, the second thing that I mentioned, I'm going to talk about it first. The person who gets out of Islam or leaves Islam, is much more controversial and is much more place for debate within the Islamic ideology itself, within the Muslim community and outside Muslim, much more than the fact of the death sentence for those who curse the prophets or say bad things about him, or all the prophets or all the Islamic iconic figures. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm going to explain the first one first, and the second notion, the question that you raised, will be just a small part of the same logic and reasoning, at least in my view, what my views are on it. So let's get the point. I don't accept this fact and this belief of what you call death sentence for committing blasphemy, or the death sentence for someone who leaves Islam. I don't accept it in this very wide range. And why I say that notion is much more controversial, it's because there are absolute, obvious facts in Islam that contradict this kind of like very barbaric and tyrannical sentence that is given to people who leave Islam. You can talk on the blasphemy part and things like this. Maybe it's much more it's a wider basis. It has a wider basis for discussion, at least much more in the Muslim community or than the other people. But still, this is much more controversial. This leaving Islam thing. Many Muslims have left Islam because of this notion that if you leave Islam, the death sentence is made lawful to be done upon you, and they don't think it's right. And in that sense, in what they've heard and what they haven't, I think I don't fault them for not having researched on the thing, because there isn't anything said about this. But it is just my view that I think maybe it's the first time it's been put forward or whatever. But I haven't heard anyone talk like, in my opinion, at least before. But I think it makes complete sense, and the reason that these are so controversial, even within the Islamic communities, both subjects are very controversial in the Muslim community, is because it just doesn't make sense. It contradicts other Islamic principles. So I'm going to talk about the second question first, and then I'll get to the blasphemy part. The thing is that most people believe is that if you leave Islam, there is a death sentence. You are liable for death, and the Muslim governments or Muslim people should kill you. And first of all, let's listen to this. If in an ideology, if in a belief, in anything, in a contract, or an ideology, or something that I've heard from somebody, or in a speech that I've heard, or in the sentence that someone has told, in whatever case, when there are two facts that contradict each other and don't make sense, either one has to be disputed and ignored and not accepted as a fact anymore, or one that is more accepted, the one that is more acceptable must be placed as the fundamental principle, and the secondary thing that is less liable and acceptable, it has to be explained under the notion of the first basis, which is more acceptable. Okay, and if it is not explainable, it must be accepted as untrue. So I'm going to tell you some things about the Islamic principles of the freedom of choice, not the freedom of choice. First of all, the most famous verse in the Quran is the Ayatul Kursi in Surah Baqarah, and it says, it's composed of 3 verses. In the second verse it says, La ikraha fid-din. There will be no enforcement of religion. There will be no enforcement of religion. You can't make somebody believe in something. And then there is other facts as well. Just to remind you, this fact that those who leave Islam must be murdered, must be killed. Murder is when somebody kills for wrong reasons, and not all killing is always wrong and unjust, according to each different ideology. And the second part about the blasphemy, neither is in the Quran. But I'm going to talk about how logic works. logically and rationally, at least my logic and rationality, what they tell me. So, but the Quran definitely says that you cannot enforce your religion. And in religion, in Islamic religion and ideology, it is believed that if you accept Islam without doing research, and this is a great positive point for it. It's one of the reasons that I accepted Islam, because I left Islam. I myself left Islam. Of course, I didn't tell anybody about it because I didn't go shouting to somebody. I left Islam and started thinking how things should be, and then I formed the basis of what a true religion must have in itself, and its fundamental explanation of the world and its laws and what it advises right or wrong. So one of the things that Islam has, that I think any religion should have, fair religion should have, fair ideology should have, is said that if you accept Islam on the basis of that it is your parents were Muslims, if you accept Islam on the basis that it is politically correct in your society to be a Muslim, if you accept Islam without thinking and without being unbiased towards it, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. If you accept Islam while you are biased for accepting Islam, it is not worth anything. You must choose Islam, and Islam always says, and the Quran says, listen to every different opinion and ideology and belief, and accept the one that is best. But be true, be unbiased, be fair. Accept the one that is best. And if you accept Islam on a notion that I said your parents wanted you, the society pushed you in a way that you thought that it would be better to be a Muslim and not face the fact of being kind of isolated from the society, or it was politically correct that it was in your favor to be a Muslim, and things like this, or that it was just whatever reason, that was not considered rational reasons and acceptable reasons for you to believe, to do research, do your thinking and everything else, and then pick the one that you believe is right. If you do it according to one of the things that I said, even if you pray, if you fast from morning to night and you pray from night to the morning, your Islam will be worth nothing, and you will go to hell in the afterlife. But if you do your research, and I'm saying this is just amazing. It's not amazing. It has every ideology, true ideology must have this, and I'm surprised that other ideologies don't have this, or at least I haven't seen them. And it's not amazing. It's exactly what it should be. But I've seen so many ideologies that do not have them, or at least what I haven't seen them have this belief, this part of this law, that maybe I'm amazed by Islam having it. It said that even if you don't accept Islam, which Islam says in itself and its doctrines, even if you don't accept Islam, but you've done your research, you've tried to find the true answer, and because people's logic is different, people's base of belief and what is right and wrong, it depends on where they came from, their family, their education, their day and age, the time in the whole time that people have, the humans have lived, where they live, because whether they were in a moderate and a progressive society or not, and things like this, they affect our way of thinking, our mind, and how open-minded we are, or how closed-minded we are, and things like this. So every person is different. And if you chose Islam, if you didn't choose Islam, but you've done your research, whether you've ever heard of Islam or done Islam, but you truly try to find the true ideology and the truth about this life and what is right and what is wrong and everything else, if you do this truly and fairly and unbiased, then whatever you choose, and not only just have this belief, but act on your belief, which is important. Islam says you must believe in the truth and act upon it. Just believing in it is not right, is not enough. for you to be accepted by God, for your religion to be accepted, because the religion is part belief and action. If you don't believe, if you find out that Islam is not what it says, it is wrong. It has fundamental flaws, or it has laws which are flawed, or whatever. And you find a better ideology, then you say this is better. At least it's better than this barbaric ideology and belief. Then. And you act upon it. You truly act upon what you think is right. This is important for you. But then God, in the day of judgment, your fate will be accepted. God will accept you, because Islam has another verse. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. It is said in Surah Baqarah. It means that God will not. You will all be judged according to your potential, and what is. And could have been accepted from you, what you could have done. So, to get to this point, and you might ask, okay, how can we know if a person is a true Muslim and has done his research and has been unbiased, or how has somebody who's chosen been unbiased or biased towards it and has chosen it? Because none of us can do this. None of us can do this. In the Islamic doctrine, we can never do this. It must be only God in the day of judgment, according to the Islamic doctrine, can do this. So, and this is a very important point, that it's not worth anything if you're a Muslim when you haven't chosen out of true faith. So what is it worth when it's a person who's been born in an Islamic country, an Islamic community, an Islamic family, and chooses Islam in his early age because he doesn't even have any teachings about what is right and what other religions and what other beliefs say and what is wrong about themselves and about Islam and what Islamic critics have said. And it's very, very important. You have to not listen to just the portrayers of the belief. You have to listen to the critics. Maybe this is more important, to the critics of the religion as well, and the belief and any ideology, if you want to truly make a decision. So in Islamic belief, it is not worth anything. I'll just make an example. So somebody is born in an Islamic family or a community or whatever, and the parents, which is in almost 100% cases, don't start telling at an early age. It's not just in Islam, in every family. Find out the truth about the world, try to do research, try to hear every voice and everyone's opinions on things and choose what is right. And we got maybe in our teens, or maybe in the times we start thinking about what is right and wrong. Sometimes we do. I know from my personal experience that I started very late, and most people don't even do these things. So if somebody has picked Islam at an early age because that's all he or she was told by his family, by the community, and at some age when he or she sees things that seem controversial, seem conflicting, and doubts the ideology, and then no one can answer him or her, and then the person leaves Islam, that is completely illogical. That is completely logical. According to the Islamic doctrine, you must not pick something that is wrong, that has flaws and things like this. You must choose the best thing there is. So if you see the notion without being biased towards either one, then that is exactly Islam says, what you should do. Because in Islam, the only thing that matters is, it says your goal should be, your goal is the judgment day, where you should be, where you must pass the day of the judgment. And it says that if you choose something without accepting it truly as the truth, it will not be accepted. And if you pick something which is wrong other than Islam, which you've accepted as truly, that is a really hard thing to do. Because we humans are so biased towards different things. I hope I've truly done, but I can't be sure. Just I hope. I've done it. And every day I try to filter my emotions and put them aside, and my beliefs and my society and my family today. I try to look honestly upon my beliefs. And it's exactly this way of thinking that's brought me to this, because I criticize these ideas and everything else about the Islamic belief, and this is how I reach these conclusions. So I'm not going about it because this is taking too long. So I said, you cannot enforce your religion on things, on other people. It's not worth anything if you make someone, whatever it means, you give them money, they're afraid that it will lose their social positions if they don't accept your religion, you offer them, or you put sentences upon them, they will accept Islam. You say, oh, I'm Muslim. It's not worth anything in the Islamic sense. So that's again another Islamic law policy and principle that is against the fact that if you leave Islam, your blood can be spilled. Another fact, and the people who say this notion is because it will hurt the face of Islam if somebody leaves it. It will hurt the face of Islam if someone leaves it. This is because they think that if you just leave Islam, then you should be killed. Your sentence is death. Why? Because their opinion on why this is clear cut and it has no conditions is because it will hurt the face of Islam if Muslims leave it. And I say to them that if this is your belief, if this is the answer you give as to why this sentence should be, is that it will hurt the face of Islam. So if you cheat people in Islam, at least what comes out of their mouth or what they say they believe in, or if they have to fill a form and say state your religion and think that they're Islam, but they don't accept it, and you cheat it with a sword, by the sword, and you rule them with an iron fist. That's just you're like creating a tumor and a cancer in the midst of the Islamic society, which will one day erupt, and the damage that will give to Islam, and the damage that it is giving to Islam, not just a day. Because when you say Muslims leave Islam, it will hurt the face of Islam with the other non-Muslim communities and the Islamic. But the damage that this notion of keeping the Islamic people saying that we're Muslims with the rule of the sword, and by threatening to kill them if they say otherwise, this is much, much, much more damaging to the face of Islam. And not just whether within or out of Muslim, because one day, it's just obvious, okay, so I'll just pass this. And another thing that I think contradicts, my belief, when we say God, when we believe in God, where we're theists, we have to understand this notion of God. It's not just some old guy who's living in the skies and just walks about and looks and then makes some magic happen. It is the creator of every single thing. It has created every single thing, not just physically, the notions, right and wrong. God has created, this is the creator, has created every single aspect of being. So, one aspect of being is free will. If the only acceptable thing, if God has put a rule that you must choose Islam, do this, if you must do this, and you will not be allowed to do anything other than this, it doesn't make sense with the fact that He has given us free will. It doesn't make sense that why has He given us free will? He would have taken our free will away if you believe in the Creator and what it stands for, because when we say God, it means that the basis of all creation, that I consciously and with a goal created everything. And other meaning except this, even if I know most people have not thought about this, but any other meaning except this is not acceptable. It is illogical. And that will not be God in a sense. It's something else that we're just putting the name God on. But when we say God, this is what we mean, whether we don't know what we mean or have another meaning in mind. God has given us free will. The Creator has created us with free will. It's not something that He was forced to do. He created us with free will, out of His own will. So I can choose whatever I want, but I'm also responsible for the effects my decisions will have on my life. I mean, in this world, in the second one, and everything else. I will have to answer for my acts. But I can choose not to be a Muslim. If God was forcing me to choose Islam, He wouldn't have given me free will. He would just made me a Muslim. Like the Islamic belief of the difference between angels and humans. They don't have any free will. They cannot do anything except worship God. But humans can. They can choose what to do. And that is the difference and what makes us of a higher creation, according to Islamic philosophy and doctrine. So, these contradict the fact that if you leave Islam, and because this is taking too long, I don't want to get back and say them. I usually say these things again, all in the clear cut, but you think so. Free will, the inability to force your religion, on people. The fact that Islam says you must choose the right thing, and even if you choose anything other than Islam, by the true ways and meaning and roots that you have to, and the conditions that you have to choose the right thing, you will be accepted. It is not worth anything if you accept Islam without doing your research and listening to every idea and its critics and its those who are for the notion or anything else. These all lead to the things that the fact that if you leave Islam and you're liable for a death sentence, it doesn't make sense. These don't make sense. It's a contradiction. Those are obvious with the, as I said, especially my notion of the fact that I put on free will and other things, which you can just see about the facts of the universe, is these are contradicting. And those notions that are against the notion of the death sentence for those who leave Islam are much more fundamental than this kind of law that they say is in the Islamic doctrine. So, either this notion of the death sentence for the person who leaves Islam must be completely thrown away and called unacceptable and illegitimate, or it has to be changed from this simple explanation that as soon as you leave Islam, you're liable for death. Now, is there a case when somebody can be sentenced to death for leaving a religion? Any religion, if it's true. Any religion. Well, first of all, we have to clear cut it. The first thing is that sometimes this question has two layers, but sometimes different things, which one is more basic than the second one. But sometimes we mix things up because of words that we're sensitive to. Sometimes we mix things up. So when we say, what do you think about the death sentence for blasphemy or for leaving religion? We have to understand that there are two levels of debate that we should have. Whether blasphemy or leaving religion is a crime and should have a sentence. And the second thing is, okay, so if it is a crime, if it isn't a crime, then there should be no sentence. But if it is a crime, or if there is a condition in which it can be called a crime, and this is the part I'm going to, in which I believe in, what should the sentence be? What should the sentence be? But the notion of death, and killing somebody kind of overrides the fact of we don't even think about whether it's a crime anymore, whether it's wrong, or if there is a condition where it can be wrong or not. The death sentence makes so much, it has so much effect on it that it blinds us from the basics of the question of whether it's a crime or not. So if you if nobody can prove that it's a crime, then the sentence, whether it's a slap in the face or a death sentence, it doesn't make sense. Neither will make sense. So the first layer is whether it's a crime. What is? I'll look at another. I'll try to put my case another way. If you make a product, or if you have something that you're selling, and I start to criticize your product, okay, or whatever, your notion or whatever, because I have a right to criticize it. I have a right to say this is wrong for this and this and this, okay. But and you can't do anything against me because it is my right. But if you realize that I am only criticizing, undermining your product or whatever, because I am biased against you, whether it's that I have a grudge against you yourself or somebody who works for you or whatever. I just don't like I don't like the face of what you're selling or whatever. Or I've been paid by competitors to advertise against your product, and this is the important point. I don't care whether what you're selling is good or bad. I don't care what you believe in is good or bad. I don't care about anything. My benefits are my standard of what I should do or shouldn't do. Right or wrong has no saying in the matter. If I steal something from you, and that is the very definition of crime. That is the very definition of crime. If I steal something from you, if I take money out of your pockets, I say I want this money, and the fact that it is not mine, and you're not, you don't agree to give me your money or whatever, you don't accept the fact that I take your money or whatever, it doesn't make sense. I need your money, so that gives me legitimate reasons to take it. That is the very definition of crime. So, if you have someone who criticizes, and this comes to each definition, each person's and each society's and each belief of what is important and what can be what things that are hurt, they can ask for redemption. Okay, so sorry, I said this. If somebody does this on the basis, if somebody criticizes you or your product or something on the basis that, and it can be proven, and it is proven that I was biased against you. I didn't care whether you made a good or bad product. I was biased against you. I was paid somebody by some company to advertise against you. You can ask for redemption. You can say, I must be redeemed. I've been hurt. Okay, I've been hurt. And I've done a crime, and I must be sentenced according to my crime. So, if a belief thinks that it is important, it is a necessity for the benefit of the community, then somebody, just like my product is something like that, I believe it's a necessity, okay? But that is obvious, but sometimes we don't realize it, that every belief must think that it's a necessity. We can't have a belief that says that I'm not important. Okay, who cares about me? I don't care about me. We can't have a belief like this. If we have a belief, the belief must believe that the ideology must believe in its own self-importance, or it's not worth even mentioning. So, and if somebody tries to belittle it or tries to deface it or tries to kind of like attack it without caring whether this belief or ideology, with the truth about what it says, about what it believes in, what is right and wrong, it tries to criticize it and hurt it just because it was biased for his or her own benefits. Okay, then this is the very definition of a crime being done against this belief, this ideology, this person, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's just that we can't say just physical things can be hurt. Just like people where their reputation is hurt over things like this, they say that I must be redeemed, and I've been wronged upon, and they can and go to courts, and they can complain. They can file a complaint against the person who's done this. So, just to try to finish and conclude my belief is that I'm going to try to prove that it's a crime. So, and this is part where I get to blasphemy. If you commit blasphemy, this is the only way that the fact that this person who's cursed the Prophet or whatever, or somebody who leaves Islam, and we in Iran have many people who, because of the bad economic conditions, are leaving Islam, because there are people who pay them, or at least we heard that they're being paid to leave Islam and things like this. So it happens. It happens. Okay? Sorry. So, if somebody leaves Islam believes itself a necessity for the society. And when somebody leaves Islam, because they're biased towards something else, or against Islam, whether they've been paid or have a grudge, another Muslim has hurt his family or something like that, or the Islamic government has done something to his family or his friends, or he himself, or she herself, or whatever, they don't care whether it's been done by a just cause or whatever. They say, you've hurt me, I'm going to leave you. The hell with you. This person is hurting Islam, not just leaving it, but leaving it because they want to deface Islam, because they want to hurt Islam, or any notion. I believe that any ideology should have this law, that if you try to, it's obvious, anyone should have this, that if you try to hurt me, if you try to say things against me, advertise against me, in a case where you don't care whether I'm right or wrong, whether I'm good or bad, you just want to hurt me, yes, I should have the right to retaliate and say that I take you to court, or say that you've done a crime, or whatever. You should be stopped, and you should be punished for what you have done. It is the definition of a crime. So, just leaving Islam is not only wrong in Islamic belief, but if you leave Islam when you truly think Islam is bad, you are doing what is right, because staying in Islam when you don't believe in it is wrong. So they will, just to have that anyone who leaves Islam should be killed, in the sense that is impossible. It is impossible to be true. But if you leave Islam because you want to hurt Islam, you don't care whether it's right or wrong, or what you're going into is right or wrong. It's just that I want to hurt Islam. I've been paid to do. I have a grudge against this government or whatever, or this person or something like this. Then yes, you've done a crime and you're a criminal. You should be sentenced to something. If you say bad things against them, if you commit blasphemy against the Prophet or religious icons, because you really hate them, and it's important to know that these laws have some special things to say. It makes sense that if you don't have a stable mind and you could blasphemy or say bad things, if you're angry, or you're feeling, or you're not an emotionally stable person, this concedes to my belief that one of the situations that you must be emotionally stable when you say these, when you commit blasphemy against, or say bad things or whatever, you curse the Prophet or religious Islamic icons or religious icons, whether it be Muhammad or Moses or Jesus or whatever, or David or whatever, or Jacob or whatever. You must be stable, or you must be emotionally stable, which is credit to my belief and logic, because it means that you're cool, you're calculating, I just want to hurt this guy. But if you're emotional, then you're not talking about a belief. You may just say a rant off against your own self, against yourself, your family, your friends, anybody when you're emotionally unstable. So just to conclude, my logic and what my beliefs are in this position. Till here, I'm going to get to the death sentence right now. If somebody leaves Islam because they believe Islam is wrong, according to the very Islamic doctrine that he or she is leaving, it is the right thing to do. You should not accept something which you don't believe in. So, you can't ever sentence somebody for doing what you believe is right. So, and they have a right according to their free will and every other thing that I just mentioned. But if you leave, and if you curse the Prophet or say bad things about him while you're emotionally unstable, or because you believe that the Prophets or other religious icons truly have done these things, you cannot be sentenced for anything if it is what you believe. What you believe must be said. Of course, I don't believe in it. Islam doesn't believe in it. And the Quran states that you should not curse. You should never curse anybody. Cursing is wrong in itself, because anything that Islam says and believes, it is a means to reach an end, and those means must be justified. Those means must be justified to reach the proper end. You can never have you can never reach some proper goal with unjustifiable means, wrong meaning. So the end never justifies the means in Islamic belief. No matter what we Muslims act, how contradictory to this we Muslims act. So just as I conclude this thing, because cursing is all wrong, but you will never be able to sentence somebody who's emotionally unstable and curses and things like this. But it can be the reason I said that this is less controversial, this debate about the blasphemy, than the one about leaving Islam and the sentence that Islam has, because this cursing, whether we're conscious about it or not, most people, especially Muslims, believe that this cursing different religions and ideology, this is wrong, I'm doing the wrong thing, so I must be stopped. So this is why it's less controversial, this cursing thing, or saying that, F this guy, F that guy, or whatever. But this thing that if it was a pedophile, if you believe that he was someone who raped children, if something like that, you should accept it. You should tell me and tell other people. Muslims should know. They should hear the voice of critics. This is the Islamic belief. Even if no Islamic country does these things, this is the true Islamic belief. And unfortunately, how we act as Muslims, because we have not been really told about Islam, and we have not understood Islam at all, unfortunately. Whether Muslims or other faiths have not understood Islam, it is very contradictory to what Islam truly says. But I'm trying to make cases and saying that why I believe in these things. So, and I'm defending my notion of Islam. This is my notion of Islam, and this is what I'm defending. I don't care what every single Muslim, including my parents, believe in and do. This is the notion and the ideology, even if my acts seem to contradict it in many cases, and they do. The last part is, I'm saying this: if somebody tries to say that the Prophet of Islam or Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, or whatever, they're not just this ideology. If anybody says, even if those who worship idols, atheists, if I believe that if I say atheists are wrong because of this and this and this, and I start defacing them, I start bad-mouthing them or whatever, cursing them or whatever, because I have a bias against them, yes, then I don't care what's right and wrong about them. Completely, it's a conscious act of me realizing that it is in my benefit, it is in my personal, worldly, gainly benefit to start defacing them and destroying them as much as I can, because whether they are right or wrong, and this fact that they're right or wrong, my actions are right or wrong, doesn't have anything to say is in my decision. then yes, I'm committing a crime. And the atheist or the idol worshipper or whatever, the non-believer or anything, the Hindu, the Buddha or whatever, they have a right to say that I've committed a crime against them, and I have committed a crime against them, or their ideology or whatever, even if it's not a specific person. So, and I must be sentenced according to my crime. So, the single belief that somebody should be killed if they believe in this notion, I don't accept it. If they commit blasphemy on the Prophet, just in this, without explaining the circumstances, I don't believe in it. If somebody is Islam, he should be sentenced to death, I don't believe it. The situation and the conditions are important. It's very hard, it's extremely hard to prove that this person is biased against or for any belief, and they're doing it, but that is why, just the fact that it is hard doesn't say that so it's hard, so we should just leave it alone. No. Like many other crimes that are very hard, but they are in the law, and we try to prove them, and if we can't, we say no to. We call innocent upon the person who's being judged. Even though many criminals may go free, but it is hard to prove them. But this is the only way we have. This is the same notion. It's very difficult to prove, but this is what we must do. It must be truly proven that they've been biased. So now the facts, I think I've proven it. I think I've made my point and expressed my logic and my opinion and my argument. Now the fact about the death sentence, which, if we establish that this is a crime, and any other ideology or religion must have it, we have it in every aspect of life, it is the very definition of crime. I believe it should be done against, if Muslims do these to other beliefs, it should be done, it should be considered a crime. Now what about the sentence? Well, the sentence that we give to other people depends on now I've talked about the death sentence in another video, so I'm not going to talk about the death sentence, whether it should be or not. I believe that there should be it is justifiable to have a death sentence for the highest point of crimes that can be committed. We should have a death sentence. Okay. Some people dispute this, we can have a discussion, but if in your ideology you believe in the death sentence is for the maximum crime that can be committed. And what is the maximum crime? The maximum crime is the maximum that somebody is somebody who tries to hurt or destroy the most essential things that there are, like taking a human's life or something like this. Now, religion, each ideology must believe that it is, I said, it's important, it's beneficial, it is an important factor of life and the society, and it is the most important thing. It is not just important. Islamic ideology like Islam, Christianity, or whatever, atheism, or whatever, they believe that they must believe that they are the most essential aspect of the community, and hurting the most essential aspect of the community is hurting the most important thing in the community, in the human race or whatever, in a country, in a city or whatever. So, when you hurt the most important and crucial thing, then you must have the highest sentence. Anything other than this doesn't make sense. Either you don't know that the death sentence is the sentence reserved for the highest crimes, or you don't believe that the ideology is so essential and so important, then you don't know what ideology means. Even if the ideology itself states that I'm not that important or not important at all, then this ideology is controversial within itself. So it is completely logical that if you heard my logic that it is a crime that hurts ideologies that are consider themselves the fundamental and basics that every society must be based upon, then it is very obvious and very natural that hurting this foundation, this basis for everything else, is hurting the most essential thing in the community, and hurting the most essential things has the highest sentence, which is death. So this was my answer, and it was a very long video. It was almost 1 hour, and I don't know how to upload this. It will take a long time to upload this, but I hope you've seen it, and I would very much like, especially JJ, who was kind enough to ask me this question. I'm sorry if it took so long, and I could have maybe made it shorter or something like this. Please leave your comments on this, especially JJ, because I may have left out some things, or I may have some things that don't make sense or anything else. And I hope that to hear from you soon and see what your opinions are, what I've just said, and anybody else, other person who leaves a comment, I will be very appreciated a lot, and I will be very happy to answer you if you leave a comment. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry it took long, and I hope it didn't bore you. Goodbye.